Dear friends gathered this evening and those joining us virtually, it has been a heavy week. As Mar Cheshvan, the bitter month, increases the darkness, our Shabbat observance settles into a deepness that reflects the fallen leaves and the colder temperatures to come. We feel this impending winter sleep with the bitterness that we feel in our bodies and the sadness in our hearts. I invite you to close your eyes and give time and intention to your feelings. Abraham Joshua Heschel calls Shabbat a palace in time. So afford yourselves the luxury of taking the time this evening to tune in to the weight in your heart. Notice also the kindness and the light that is also there. Be mindful of the blessings that brought you to this moment. Notice the comfort of your chair, the warmth of this room, and feel the supporting presence of those sharing space with you this evening. And let us begin with a song of healing and rebuilding, a song of love sourced from Psalm 89, verse 3, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, you will build this world from love. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yadadai, 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 Yadadai. Try it with me. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yadadai, 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 Yadadai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yadadai, 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 Yadadai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yadadai, 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 Yadadai. I will build this world from love. Yadadai, 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 Yadadai. And you must build this world from love. Yadadai, 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 Yadadai. And if we build this world from love, Yadadai, 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 then God will build this world from love. Yadadai, 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 Yadadai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yalalai, Yadadai, Yadadai, Yadadai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yadadai, 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 Yadadai. Olam chesed yibane. Yadadai, 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 yadadai. Olam chesed yibane. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. We open our prayer books, our Mishkan Tefillah prayer books, to page 124. 124. And read together with me aloud on the bottom half of the page. May the door of this synagogue be wide in us to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young and straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. How good and how pleasant it is to be together and not alone this evening. Hine Matov Umanaim, page 128. Hine Matov Umanayim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. 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 It is decidedly darker this Shabbat than it was before the time change. Usually I have to wait a few prayers in before we can light the Shabbat candles, but I think we're safe in that it is Shabbat, the sun has set. So I invite Elizabeth to come here and light the candles for us. The blessing can be found on page 120. Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'echad likneh shel Shabbat. When I keep Shabbat, God watches over me. It is a sign forever between God and me. Ki Eshmer Shabbat, page 129, the third song down. Ki Eshmer Shabbat, Yishmereini. Ki Eshmer Shabbat, Yishmereini. Oti leomead, Beino veni. Oti leomead, Beino veni. Ki Eshmer Shabbat, Yishmereini. Ki Eshmer Shabbat, Yishmereini. Oti leomead, Beino veni. Oti leomead, Beino veni. In Lurianic Kabbalah, there is a tradition, a belief, that two angels accompany each of us as we return home from synagogue as Shabbat begins. And we honor this teaching with the Kabbalistic poem Shalom Alechem, Malachi Hasharet, which we can find the verses on page 142. And in this blessing, we welcome with peace the ministering angels, the messengers of God. We invite them to enter in peace and bless us with peace and depart in peace. Shalom Alechem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bohem Lech Shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Ni L'Shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzitchem Shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kabbalat Shabbat, the custom of coming in on a Friday night and observing Shabbat with the setting sun, originates it was a custom that originated from the mystics. And they would run, the priests in Svat would run out into the fields as the sun set on Shabbat evening, and they would bless the Shekhinah, the dwelling presence, the angels, as we just sang, the dwelling presence of God that would come and be with us through Shabbat. And we would welcome Shekhinah, which is a female aspect of God, as a bride. If you look on our Lecha Dodi, which is the prayer that tells this story, is on page 138, 139. The final verse, the last line, or the last verse, Boi v'shalom ateret balad, enter in peace, O crown of your husband. Boi kala, come bride, enter bride. And we rise and we face the door as we would a bride when a bride comes down the aisle. You may see in some traditions, and sometimes I do this, I will wear white on Shabbat as a symbol of this tradition. You know, we're marrying God on Shabbat. So we will sing Lecha Dodi verses 1, 2, 8, and 9. Something's wrong here. Lecha Dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavena Lecha Dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavena Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Ishmianu elcham yochad Adonai echad u'shmo echad L'shem ultiferet v'litehila Lecha Dodi likrat kala Yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavera Lecha Dodi likrat kala Yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavera Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha Ki mekor haberacha Merosh mikedem nesucha Sof ma'aseh b'machashava techila Lecha Dodi likrat kala Yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavela Lecha Dodi likrat kala Yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavela Yamin u'smol tifrotzi V'et Adonai taritzi Ayadish ben parti v'nismecha v'nagila Lecha Dodi likrat kala Yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavena Lecha Dodi likrat kala Yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavela We rise, we face the door Boi v'shalom ateret bala Gam b'simcha u'tochona Toch emunei am segula Boi chala Lecha Dodi likrat kala Yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavela Lecha Dodi likrat kala Yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavela We remain standing for Chatzi Kaddish, our prayer of separation. As we go from Kabbalat Shabbat, the welcoming of Shabbat, into our central prayers, the Baruch and Shema. Chatzi Kaddish is on page 144. Yitkadal, yitkadash shemei rabba, v'amad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'chayedecho beit Yisrael, bagala, bagala, u'vizman kari v'yimeru, Amen. Shemei Rabba Mevorach, Le'olam u'le'omei Omaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitba'ar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitalev, V'yitalal, Shemei De'kurisha Barichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiran be'alma, V'yimeru, Amen. We stay in a position of standing as we do the Baruch, our prayer, our prayer of praise. We face east, we face Jerusalem, we face the spiritual center, gravitational force of the universe, and we say this blessing. I will do the call, and if you please do the answer. Baruch hu et Adonai Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Leolam Vahed. You may be seated. The next few prayers, rather than introduce them all individually, I will just say that each one is a prayer of blessing to a different aspect of God. The Mariva Ravim prayer is a blessing of God as the creator of day and night, followed by Ahavat Olam, which is a blessing of God who loves us unconditionally, followed by the Shema, the central prayer where we, united as one, answer God's love with our own love and commitment. And then the Ve'ahavta, the words from Deuteronomy, our pledge to follow God's laws. And then there is Emet Michamocha, our prayer of freedom, of wonder at God's miracles. And then Hashkivenu. I know I'm giving you a long list, but rather than stop and start, I'm just telling you that there are all these aspects and all the different ways we feel God's presence, even in the heaviness that our hearts are in. The Hashkivenu, which follows the Michamocha, our prayer for deliverance, is a prayer for safety in the dark. And then the final one, Vishamru, that is a commitment to keep Shabbat as a covenant with God for all time. So back to page 148. I was flipping through, got all the way to 162 there. I'll give you the pages as we get there. Page 148. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro mariva ravim b'chokhmah poteach she'arim uvitvuna mishaneh hitim ומחליף את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו בורא יום ולילה כולל אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור וחושך מפני אור ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות Baruch Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'ma'ari Aravi. Page 150, Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha Ahavta, Amcha Ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadata. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu, uchumeinu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki chem chayenu, ve'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. V'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha, ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, u'mlechtecha v'derech, u'shachbecha u'kumecha, u'kshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'visharecha. L'ma'an tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, mitem kedoshim le'olechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Together in English, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Page 158. Let's exchange English paragraphs, and then we'll do the blessing on the top of the page. Who is like you, O God, among the gods that are worshipped? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? Your children witnessed your sovereignty, the sea splitting before Moses and Miriam. This is our God, they cried. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Moshe Miriam Zeli Anu ve'amru Adonai Imloch Le'olam va'ed Yai lai lai Yai la 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 lai la la lai 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 Yai la lai lai Yai la 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 lai Yai rai 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 Yai rai 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 Yai rai 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 Yai rai 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 ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גיא ישראל. Our liturgy is old, dating back to the Babylonian exile 2,000 years ago. This next prayer, Hashkivenu, I know I said I wasn't going to talk, but I decided I'm going to. The Hashkivenu dates back nearly 1,200 years ago, well before lockable, insulated permanent housing, before we understood the physical properties of our body and its need for sleep. Hashkivenu represents the surrender of our souls to a higher power and a begging for protection over our body and our soul so that we may wake up another day. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Watch over us and deliver us. guard our coming and our going to life and to peace evermore. Page 161, first two lines in English and then the first two lines in Hebrew. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Leshalom. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Leshalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Baruch atah Adonai, Chapore sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim. Shamru, page 162. V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'dorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam, ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash. We rise for Amidah, the standing prayer, Tefillah. On Kabbalat Shabbat, we do these blessings, several blessings, silently after the invocation. Feel free to read the prayers, the traditional prayers in the book from page 164 to 180. Flip around I encourage you to read both sides or the left side of the page for a little alternate or close the book and just pray what is in your heart. This is your time with the Holy One of Blessing. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agitahilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. The final prayers in our Amidah is a prayer for peace, to Shalom Rav, a great peace. I'm going to go a little bit off of the regularly scheduled liturgy and take the partnering prayer from the morning service, which could be found on page 258, if you'll indulge me. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed barachamim. Grant peace, goodness, and blessing, grace, kindness, and mercy to all of us and to all your people. This melody may not be familiar to many of you. Perhaps it is, but I love it, so I'm sharing it with you. Maybe you'll come to know it. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chaim chen v'chesed v'rachamim. 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 We add to all of our blessings, spoken, sung, and murmured silently, a prayer for healing for all in our community, all in our world that need healing, all who are in pain, all who are suffering anxiety. This blessing is for you today. In our community, we say blessing for Malka Cyril bat Devoradina, Sarah bat Avraham, Kathleen Ford, Maya Smith, Mac Russell, Eileen Abbey, Charles Apple, Charles Ronkin, Judy Schlessel, Zahava bat Dan, Gabriel Komisar, Eliyahu ben David Ve'elka, Steve Wilner, Marty Gingle, Rozbolski, Graham Ross, Kathy Jarrett Tremper, Ariel Roberts, Shifra Basha, Esther Rachel bat Daniel Abigail, Ruchel Mura bat Carmen, David Ephraim Cantor, and any additional names you would like to add. Prayer for healing from Torah, page 677. Elna Rifanala, God, I pray, heal her. Elna Rifanalo, heal him. Rifana Lanu, heal us all. Ena Rifanala, Ena Rifanala, Ena Refanala, Rena Refanala, Ena Refanalo, Ena Refanalo, Ena Refanalo, Ena Refanalo, Ena Refanalanu, Ena Refanalanu, Ena Refanalanu, Ena Refanalanu, Ena Refanala, Ena Refanala, Ena Refanala. You can put your books aside for a few minutes. This week's Torah portion, Lech Lecha, takes its name, as is our custom, from the first line of the Parsha. Vayomer Adonai el Avram, Lech Lecha me'artzecha umimladtecha umibeit abicha el haaretz asher arecha. And God said to Abraham, go forth from the land, your birthplace, your father's house, to the land that I will show you. From the beginning of this weekly reading, our ancestral father is sent out into the unknown, leaving all that is familiar and comfortable, and with God's blessing, told to seek out himself, go find yourself, and in so doing, he will become a mighty nation. As we learn of Avram, who is his name at the beginning of this portion, becomes Abraham, we learn of some of his attributes. He is divinely inspired. He sets out on a journey to find himself with God as his trusty guide. He is devoted. He sets up altars throughout his travels, altars to God. He is cunning. He develops a scheme in his sojourn to Egypt to keep him and his beautiful wife Sarai safe. Google it. He also successfully negotiates for his nephew Lot's freedom from battle. He is persistent in achieving success. He amasses great wealth in his life, and he conceives heirs from both his wife and her slave. He is gracious. We learn later in Torah of his humility with guests and travelers, regardless of their lineage. He is faithful, seeing the fruits of his life's journey with God as his guiding light. He is the one who makes a covenant, the first one to make a covenant with God. The God who in this parsha promises all of Canaan to the descendants in all generations of Avram. And to mark this covenant, Avram and his descendants signed the deal with a mark on their manlyhood. And he bravely trusts in the God that speaks to him. Without so much as a single question, he embarks on an adventure to find his purpose, trusting in God to lead him on. I want you, says God to Abraham, to be different, not for the sake of being different, but for the sake of starting something new, a religious lifestyle, a custom that will not worship power and the symbols of power, for that is not what idols really were or are. I want you, said God, to teach your children and your household afterward to follow the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just. That's from Genesis 18:19, which we read tomorrow. To be a Jew is to be willing to challenge the prevailing consensus when, as so often happens, the nations slip into worshiping the old gods. They did so in Europe throughout the 19th and early 20th century. That was the age of nationalism, the pursuit of power in the name of the nation state that led to 2 world wars and tens of millions of deaths. And it is arguably the age we are living in now, as Russia lays claim on Ukraine. Israel is in an existential conflict with Ishmael, the Arab world, the son of Abraham. And China lays claim on Taiwan, and North Korea and Iran pursue nuclear weapons and align themselves with these oppressive nations seeking empire status by force. We make a mistake when we think of idols in terms of their physical appearance, statues, figurines, icons. In that sense, they do belong to the ancient times that we have long outgrown. The way to think of idols now is in terms of what they represent. They symbolize power. That is what Ra was for the Egyptians, Baal for the Canaanites, Chemosh for the Moabites, Zeus for the Greeks, and what missiles, bombs, and politics of retribution are for the empire-building societies today. Power allows us to rule over others without their consent. As the Greek historian Thucydides put it, the strong do what they wish, and the weak suffer what they must. As Jews, it is our custom to critique power. That is the conclusion I have reached after a lifetime of studying our sacred texts. It is about how a nation can be formed on the basis of shared commitment and collective responsibility. It is about how to construct a society that honors the human person as the image and likeness of God. It is about a vision never fully realized but never abandoned of a world based on justice and compassion, in which, in the words of Isaiah, they will neither harm nor destroy all on my holy mountain. For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the Lord as all the waters cover the sea. When we elect leaders who lose sight of this vision of justice and compassion, our society risks losing its moral footing and succumbing to the baser instincts, the idols that harm its very civilization. Martin Luther King once said, "The arc of history is long, but it bends toward justice." I believe this is aspirational thinking. If history of nationhood is to be believed, it is more like a pendulum that swings between enlightenment and oppression. The success of our civilization hinges on the instinct of those in positions of power and influence. We hope these leaders aspire to have the virtues and instincts of our patriarch, Abraham. Abraham is arguably the most influential person who ever lived. Today, he is claimed as the spiritual ancestor of 2.3 billion Christians, 1.8 billion Muslims and 14 million Jews, more than half the people alive today. Yet he ruled no empire, commanded no great army, performed no miracles, and proclaimed no prophecy. He is the supreme example in all of history of influence without the seduction of power. Abraham was prepared to be different. As the sages say, he was called Ha-Ivri, the Hebrew, because all the world was on one side, Behever Echad, and he was on the other. Leadership, as every leader knows, can be lonely. Yet you continue to do what you have to because you know that the majority is not always right and conventional wisdom is not always wise. Dead fish go with the flow. Live fish swim against the current. So it is with conscience and courage. So it is with the children of Abraham. They are prepared to challenge the idols of their age. As we enter a new age in the United States, we too must be prepared to face change. Look at each other with respect, for we are all mostly children of Abraham. When we see wrong being done by our leaders or by our neighbors, we must be prepared to lovingly shine light on their missteps as they do not stray far from the lessons that our ancestors teach us. Like Abraham, we must act with divine inspiration, show devotion and respect, be cunning when necessary, persistent in achieving our goals, be gracious to those who cross our path, be faithful to our higher instincts, and do not succumb to the greed or selfishness, and bravely trust that God has a higher purpose for us. May you all have the courage of Avram to step out of the pack, to think critically, and follow a life of Torah and mitzvot. We begin with our closing prayers. With a verse taken from Aleinu. V'takein olam b'malchut Shaddai, v'chol b'nei v'asar, yikru yishmecha. May all the broken pieces of the world be mended in your holy light. These verses can be found on page 588. Letakein olam b'malchut Shaddai, Shaddai, v'chol b'nei v'asar, yikru b'shmecha. May all the broken pieces of the world be mended, then all the broken pieces of the world be mended in your holy light. Lehavnot elecha, korishe haaretz, lehavnot elecha. to you. Page 591. Ve'nemar ve'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad Ushemo Echad. Kaddish Yatom, page 598, our mourner's Kaddish. This week, we are marking the yahrzeits of Anita Friedman, Audrey Bedole, Edith Rita Berg, Richard Cloth, Harriet Cohen, Hester Dress, Hilda Frank Cookin, Georgiana French, Murray Goldman, John Grabner, Leah Kaufman, Herb Claff, Emmanuel Klosko, Michael Kahn, Peggy Lehman, Betty Livin, Peter Lipton, Evelyn Penn, Adele Posner, Bevelyn Cohen Raphael, Lillian Rosen, James Samsel, Maurice Toplin, Joseph Goldstein, Gertrude Cohen Rubin, and we note the Shiva Shloshim for Floyd Tuller, father of Debbie Tuller. Are there any others who would like to mention a name for whom they are in mourning? All those who are in mourning, those who wish to join them. Page 598. Please write. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'yalma divrachute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, v'chayei de kol beit Yisrael, v'agala uv'izman ka'ari v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam omei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmeid kudsha brichu. Le'ilah min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'brama. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. You may be seated. Announcements. Tomorrow morning, join the egalitarian minyan for a Shabbat morning Torah service. That will also be available on YouTube. That begins at 10 a.m. in this very place. And then Sunday, our congregant Russ Linden will present a talk on optimism. How do we maintain optimism during these troubling times? Join us this Sunday for the next installment of the CBI lecture series. He will speak on how to maintain a positive, optimistic outlook even in the face of disheartening circumstances, and how to bring other people along. The program will include examples of optimism in our Jewish texts as well as from contemporary leaders. Learn more details in the email that was sent out on Thursday. Is there anyone else who would like to make an announcement? All right, then we will conclude. We will have a closing song from our Torah portion. We will do Lachilach. And after that, I invite you all to join me for Kiddush and Motzi. There's challah and wine and juice waiting for us in there. So we can get to know each other a little bit and talk afterward. So the words to Lachilach can be found on page 645. a place you do not know. Lechilach, on your journey I will bless you. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechilach. Lechilach, and I shall make your name great. Lech lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lechilach, to the place that I will show you. L'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, lechilach. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechilach. Shabbat Shalom. Please join me in the other room for Kiddush and Motzi. You can put your books back on the rack.